Good evening, everybody.
Hi there. My name is Marie Toole, and I'm an AARP Colorado volunteer. AARP can see and feel the trends. People 50 and older are more active, both physically and mentally, than ever before. They aren't slowing down. In fact, they're preparing themselves to do more of the things they love. So many older adults are exercising and eating right daily. They're taking the time to learn new things, and they know the importance of life balance, making sure that leisure and fun are significant parts of that healthy lifestyle. As part of that get up and go attitude, we're hosting webinars like Eating for More Energy with culinary nutritionist Michelle Fox, where we can discover ways to continue to do the things we love to do without limitations. Tonight, Michelle is going to demonstrate how to enjoy delicious dessert without the guilt, yay, and using health supporting substitutes. In that lively spirit, we welcome you to enjoy our Eating for More Energy with Michelle Fox. While we hope you learn something new and exciting, we want you to enjoy yourself, relax, and most importantly, have some fun. Please note that we are offering closed caption option this evening. If you're interested in that option, click on the More at the bottom of the Tools ribbon located on the right-hand side and click on Captions. We'll be sending the recording out to everyone that registered along with the PDF of the recipe. If you'd like to hear more about healthy living and nutrition, please check our website, www.aarp.org/food/healthy eating. We look forward to connecting with you. And now here's my friend, Michelle Fox.
Thank you so much, Marie, and welcome AARP community. I am so excited to be here with you. This truly was the thing I was looking forward to the most this week. I've already done the shopping, and in specific, why I mentioned the shopping right on the top is here in Colorado, the cherries were a little, I wasn't so pleased. I'll just give you a heads up. I'm on this side. I'm going to be making cherry, strawberry, blueberry, kind of a berry fruit pie. But I'll step you through, I'll walk you through every step of the way. So if you have a full 5 cups of cherries, awesome, amazing, good for you. And if not, grab some of the fruit you might have in your house and we can do this together. So before we get into it, and as you can see, there are going to be a lot of moving parts today. I get very excited when I start talking about food and nutrition. And so I want you to be helping each other out. So if I'm talking too fast and you miss something, go ahead, put it in the chat box. And I'm sure somebody else in the community can help you, including we have Allison, our amazing program manager in there who will help out. And then of course, at the end, I always like to save time for questions there. With that said, whether you have a question or not, I want you to be loving each other up. We are having community this evening. Yes, we're making pie. I know some of us are actually hands in making it, and some of us are sitting back and watching it for maybe a chance to make it another time. But if you have the opportunity to chat people up in the chat box, I would love that. Also, one more housekeeping item. If you see my eyes moving this way, it's just because I have the chat box here and a few other items. I've got a second screen. So please know, if you see my eyes dart, you still have my attention 100%. So with that, as you're pulling ingredients out and or getting comfortable and getting in your space, let me know who's in the room. I would love to know where you're from or where you're streaming in from, and perhaps one thing you're grateful for. And I noticed some people already got the party started. My friend Rach is here. Hey, Rach, always great to have you in the room. And it looks like Jean is here from Vancouver. Love it. Love, love, love Vancouver. Sandra's here from SoCal. I think you were with us last time, Sandra. Welcome back. Great to see you. Gladys is here from San Antonio. Let's see, Beverly saying hello from Fort Worth, Texas. Oh, my grandparents are from Fort Worth. I love that. And last but not least, before we jump in, Jennifer says hello from Gates, New York. And she says she really needs to eat healthier. All right, my friend, you are in the right place. We are making dessert tonight, which isn't necessarily 100% healthy. I will just tell you up front, full disclosure, this is going to be a healthier version of a dessert. So everything in moderation, everything I teach as a culinary nutritionist is We want our food to be medicine. So a little bit of fruit and fruit sugar, great. A whole lot of it, not so great. So the times you are allowing it in, this is going to be a yummy, delicious, excellent recipe for you to dig into. So let's go in. I will tell you this is going to be a 3-part series today. I'm going to try to chunk it in the next 55 minutes we have together. So first we are going, and I actually have my recipe right here in case, or to make sure I don't forget any steps. So we're going to start with the crust. We're going to make that first. Next, we're going to make the cherry filling and or fruit filling if you're adding in extra fruit like I am. And then lastly, we will make the delicious coconut whip. So who's ready? So I want to know in the chat box, I'm ready to go and or I'm baking with you and or I'm sitting back and watching. I would love to know who's actually baking with me tonight. Let's see. Marcia's here from beautiful Colorado. Jennifer, aloha from Hawaii. Oh, so glad you're tuning in, Jennifer. Great to have you. And Rach says, Kale, yeah, I'm ready. And Jane says, today is a watching day. Okay, good to know. Okay, so then my friends who are baking. Oh, and I also saw somebody's question earlier. The recipe, we will have that in the chat. I believe Allison either put that in the chat already or it might be coming soon. And no worries if you can't grab it out of the chat because it will be emailed to you after the webinar is over. So we will absolutely make sure you have this recipe so you can make it as many times as you want. Okay, so if you are baking with me, hopefully you pulled out all your ingredients, but if not, don't worry, we've got time. So first things first, we are making the crust. So I want you to put your flour in a big mixing bowl. And when I say big enough to get your hands in there because we are gonna get mixing with our fingers. So 3 cups flour. I prefer gluten-free because it is my experience with clients. Full disclaimer, I am not a doctor, so if you make any big changes, of course, talk to your doctor first. However, the work I do, I strongly recommend you just try the gluten-free flours if you haven't already. A great brand that I love to use, and I'm not endorsed by them, and AARP does not endorse any of this, is, again, I'm the guest, I'm just sharing my experience. But the Bob's Red Mill baking flour, it's like a 1-to-1. So you don't have to worry about all the different types of mixing because I know gluten-free baking can often get bad rap because people don't always know what to mix. So make it easy and just use a brand that already knows how to mix it well. With that said, that is what I am using. If you're using the traditional flour, this works great as well. If you are using gluten-free flour, you do want to add in some xanthan gum. And it comes like this from the store. And the reason why we want to do the xanthan gum, don't use it if you're using traditional flour because it already has the binding. But the xanthan gum adds in a nice binder because sadly, when we are baking with gluten-free items, it does tend to be a little bit less sticking together, we'll just say. And so the xanthan gum helps it bind. And as I'm doing this, that's because we're about to make balls with this dough. So there's that. What's next? Our 1 cup salted butter. So that turns out to be 2 sticks. Let me move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to take a butter knife and I'm going to cut like just tiny kind of pats of butter. And I'm going to put that in my flour mixture. And I'm going to do this for both sticks of butter. So if you're baking with me, please join me in putting your pats of butter in the delicious bowl of flour. So that's 1 stick. Let's do the second. And before I do the second, let me see if there's any questions at this point. It looks like Allison added the recipe in if you want to download that at this point. And welcome, Leon. Great to have you here today.
Hey, Michelle. This is Allison, your voice from above. Catherine Clark has a question in the question and answer spot that she's wondering if there's a difference in carbs between gluten-free flour and regular AP flour.
Yes, love that question. So that would be more of a question for like a dietitian and or I bet you could probably Google that information to get that, because I don't study the macros and the micros in the work that I do, I will just say I lean towards, and I talk about gluten-free just because of the way wheat is harvested these days. Oftentimes it's the chemicals that leach in that can come in and do a lot of damage to our intestines, which of course causes damage to everything else. And so that's why I lean in and focus on the gluten-free. But as far as calories and carbs, I'm not sure. But thank you for asking. It's an awesome question. Okay, so now that
I got one more question.
Yeah.
Lisa Peterson also was curious about the adaptions that can be made for those who can't have dairy.
Yes, love that question, Lisa. Love that. So you, instead of, so yeah, you're right. I know some people are lactose intolerant with the butter as well. So thank you for pointing that out. So I would actually use avocado oil for this one. And so we're saying it's 1 cup salted butter. I would do exactly that. I would do 1 cup avocado oil. That would be delicious because avocado does not have any flavor to it. But if you do like a little bit of the coconut flavor, coconut oil would be an awesome substitution as well. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, just the texture wise, coconut oil would be excellent. And it's a great brain supportive oil as well. So thank you for asking. Yes. Okay. And so now the directions are to cut the butter into the flour. My friends who are the expert bakers, you probably already have a pastry cutter where you can go in there and do like this motion and get it all in there. I'm going the old-fashioned route, and I'm just using 2 butter knives to literally cut the butter. So we want the butter to be like pea-sized shape or pea-sized pieces. And so I'll show you what it looks like now. So it's basically just flour, and you see the pats of butter. By the end of this, we're gonna have small pieces, and pardon the noise, because it's gonna be a little bit. So I wanna get through this part quickly, because making the dough is actually what takes the longest part besides the baking when we're creating these delicious pies. See if there's any other questions while I'm cutting the butter. All right. And actually, at this point, do you all have any questions as far as nutrition or baking? Full disclosure, I'm more of a chef than a baker, and I absolutely respect and admire the full-on bakers. That's why I chose kind of a simple recipe so that we could pack it with delicious, nutritious fruits that will, of course, help us with our healthy aging journeys. I will also say, if you have baking advice as we go, again, we're all in this together. Feel free to put it in the chat box. I always love learning something new as well. Okay, so Donna's asking, is unsalted butter preferred? That is truly a personal preference. I prefer salted butter, believe it or not, just because the taste, like I love that kind of sweet, salty mixture. So, you know, a little bit of the saltiness from the butter, and then we're going to get the sweet from the berries. So that's what I love. But if you're more on the sweet side, then yes, I would say lean into unsalted butter. Awesome question. And then Jean said, could you do that mixing with your clean hands? Absolutely. And I'm about to do that in a moment. I just wanted to get it a little bit more chunked before my hands get in there. But yes, Jean, thank you for asking. That is absolutely the next step that is coming down the pike. Okay. So now you can see, I don't know if the lighting, it's a little shiny, I know, but we've cut the butter in the flour for the most part. Now we're going to add 8 to 10 tablespoons of milk. Just for you, my friends, I made some homemade almond milk yesterday for this recipe because I actually am gluten and dairy intolerant. However, for some reason, butter doesn't really affect me. And maybe it's the way it's processed. I don't know. But I am using butter in mine. But again, feel free to use coconut oil in yours. Then I'm going to use almond milk for the milk, but you can also use water. You can use, of course, traditional milk if that's what you prefer. The only milk I would say probably to avoid would be oat milk. For some reason, the oats, I think the texture, it just makes baking a little, just too like, well, not smooth. How about that? That's my most technical word I can come up with. So I'm going to do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you saw those were kind of loose. Here in Colorado, we're at a higher altitude. So I'm actually going to put a little bit more just because this can get really dry in here. So we're using pretty much everything a little bit loose with this recipe. The more you make it, the more you're going to get into your comfort zone. But hopefully, as you'll see, as we make it together tonight, it all comes together because the deliciousness of the berries pretty much takes over any quote unquote imperfection you might come across with the baking. Okay, let me see if I need to use my mouse before I get my hands on this lovely flour. Okay, we are good. So as I'm baking, I'll just give you a little heads up and I'll remind you at the end as well. But if you are enjoying this, we will be back here in August. I'm very excited to be teaching vegetable fried rice, and we'll make another dessert with a healthy twist. So that'll be fun. That'll be August 3rd, the first Thursday in August. And then the first Thursday in July, we'll be back there in my office talking nutrition around menopause. So any of my friends who might be going through menopause or know somebody going through menopause, I would love to share a few tips how nutrition can make that time in your life quite a bit easier. I don't want any of my friends struggling. All right, so as our friend mentioned, using our hands, you just get in there and I'm just like literally like massaging this dough. We're gonna, just so you know where we're going with it, we're gonna make 2 balls out of this recipe that we have so far. One ball is gonna be for the base crust, and then the second ball will be for the lattice on top. And you can get as creative as you want. There is no such thing as perfection when we are talking about culinary nutrition. There's only getting that nutrition in your body. And in this case, anything we can do to promote healthy, and I might add, fun aging. All right, so Marcia is asking, can this recipe be made into a strudel or a cobbler? Ooh, love that question, and absolutely. In fact, it feels kind of like the finished product just because it is so fruity. It kind of comes across as a cobbler to me anyways, but yes, absolutely. Instead of making the lattice, you can just, we'll have enough dough to just make a full-on cover if you want to do that as well. And then with a cobbler, I would say just to add maybe some delicious cinnamon and nutmeg, and that would be amazing. So yes, thank you for that question. And out of curiosity, Marcia, and feel free to enunciate it for me in the comments if you want, but are you a baker? Just out of curiosity. I would love to know if you have any hip tips for me. So there's one ball. Now I'm putting together the second ball. Get the extra pieces in there. We will end up with extra dough, just as a heads up, so you know where we're going with that. So if you have some left in the bowl, do not worry about it at all, because we will have plenty. Okay, so I am going to quickly rinse some of the dough off of my fingers. And if you're already a step ahead of me, please go ahead and pull out 2 pieces of wax paper, because we are going to use the pieces of wax paper to roll out the dough. Let's see. So Rach says, my mom used to take the extra dough and sprinkle with sugar. You beat me to the question. I was going to ask because my friends, or excuse me, I did this recipe. It's kind of like a dress rehearsal with two of my teenagers, and we ended up with extra. And I'm like, what do you guys think? And of course, that's exactly what they said. Just add sugar. Everything's better with sugar. So thanks for the heads up, Rach. Including, I might add maybe sugar and cinnamon could be delightful. And when I say sugar, you know, the culinary nutritionist has to clarify. When I say sugar, I mean a little bit of monk fruit, maybe a little bit of coconut sugar could be amazingly delicious. So feel free to play around. This is our time to play. This is our summer, right? Happy June, by the way. We get to play as much or as little as we want. Let's see. I love it. So Marcia says, not a baker, just a fan of eating. Yes, you are one of my people. I too am a fan of eating. I think that's part of how I got into this business. Let's see. And then Mary Beth asked that I missed the egg. Love that question. So no, Mary Beth, I specifically put the egg with the fruit filling just to make sure that we wouldn't put it in the dough. For this recipe, we do not need an egg until the very end. So I added an egg for this recipe to make an egg wash. So we're actually going to use that to put on top of the lattice at the end so that the dough can get a bit crispy and so it browns up a bit. So good looking out. Thank you for asking. You are on it. Okay, let's put this spoon aside, and now you have your really fun roller. I want you to roll this dough as thin as what feels natural. This is where your intuition will come into place, because hopefully you've had pie in your life before. So think about the texture and the depth that you've enjoyed pies in the past and make that, do that. Including on the wax paper, some will probably come out as mine is. And so I'm gonna just move it around and add it to some of the sides that look like they could use some more dough. I'm just gonna mash that right back in. Whew, I feel like I'm kind of like back in kindergarten playing with Play-Doh. This just makes me so happy. I hope you are enjoying this part as well. So make it as thin as possible and as wide as possible to fit your pie pan. And whether you're using a tin pan or a glass one like me, there's no right or wrong. Whichever way the pie is going to fit, that is what we are going to work with. Now I'm just kind of rolling out the edges where they're kind of thick. And Karen says, man, should have had dinner before this. Well, Karen, I will say for me, it's truly a miracle that we even have fruit here, because as I was prepping it earlier, it was like one for me, one for the bowl, one for me, one for the bowl. So I just offer that to you to say, maybe you want to have just a plain fruit dinner as we're creating this together. I love it. Thank you for participating, by the way. Okay, so I'm just going to do a size check. So it looks like I might just be on the edge, but we will find out very soon. Don't go. So I'll take off the top layer and save this wax paper, because we can, let me wait for that plane to cross over. All right, hopefully you can hear me better now. So save the wax paper, because we're going to use that to create the lattice as well. Okay, so I'm just going to put my pie tin on top. And 1, 2, 3, boop. Look it over. So my friends who are working with gluten-free dough, you'll notice it's a little bit thicker than the traditional dough, which is perfectly fine. So it's still going to be maneuverable. And my friends who are working with the traditional flour, hopefully that flip over works just fine for you as well. Now just slowly take your time and peel off the wax paper. And it's quite okay if any of the pieces break off, because as you see, we've got plenty of extra we can just pin in there. Okay, so as I said, no such thing as a perfection, but we're gonna make it beautiful. So now with your edges, you wanna, my mom would always call it crimp. I don't know if that's the official term or not, but that's who I learned how to bake from. So I'm gonna crimp the edges, and the edges where there's a little extra, taking that off, and the edges where there's not quite enough, I'm adding that in. So this dough is very forgiving. So again, have fun with this. I want you breathing as we make this pie, because it's supposed to be fun. And who's not going to have fun with cherries, right? Whether we're baking them or just popping them in our mouth. So crimp the edges, because we actually do want to make sure that the perimeter is completely covered in this beautiful dough. And I'm moving kind of quickly because, of course, there's plenty more things I want to talk about as we create this pie. But for you, feel free to take your time. There's no hurry, and you have access to the recipe, so you won't miss anything that I'm saying. With that said, don't forget, feel free to put your questions in the chat box if you do feel left behind, or if you feel like I skipped over something. We've got you. We are in this together. So crimp, 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 and mush over. Oh, this one came out really smooth. Yay. The one that I made in the dress rehearsal, I don't think I put enough almond milk in, so it was a little tougher than this one, but this has been very forgiving, so this is lovely. Okay, so there's the perfectly imperfect pie crust. Next up, before we put it to the side, I do want you to grab a fork, and we're just gonna poke holes in the bottom, and that's just to give the dough space to breathe a little bit. So I did maybe 8 to 10 pokes. And there we have it. So I'm going to put this to the side for now. Next, because we have the dough right there, let's make our lattice so it'll be ready at the end after we put the filling in. So grab your wax paper again. And feel free to put the extra dough in there or leave it to the side. Let's see, what do I want to do? Actually, I think I want to take Rachel's advice, and we'll just keep it to the side. So maybe we can make some delicious coconut, sugar, and cinnamon sliced cookies. I don't know. Okay, but this one we want to do almost exactly the same how we did with the first crust. And we just want to roll it as thin as possible. And I saw some movement in the chat. Let's see. Ah, yes. Donna says, thanks for the tip to use the wax paper for the dough. Mine usually sticks to the rolling pin. Yep. This definitely helps. I'd like to say, or like to think that I have plenty of counter space for flour and fruit and veggies. And I guess I do, but this definitely keeps it a lot cleaner and in one space. So less cleaning after the fact, which is nice. So yay, I'm glad that that tip helped. And so again, we want this dough to be as thin as possible. And let me just do a time check. Oh, good. So we're right at the halfway mark. So this is great. And if you're already ahead of me, and or if you don't want to do a lattice, you might want to prep your fruit if you haven't already. I'll show you a hip tip on how to pit cherries that I find super easy and makes it nice when you want to get the natural, maybe even organic cherries. We won't go down that road today, but just saying, I'll show you a really quick and easy way to pit the cherries when you're baking. Okay, I think I've got this one as flat as we're going to do it for this demo. Ooh, Yep, mine's popping out already. More ingredients for the cookies. Thanks again, Rach, for that idea. Okay, so now slowly taking off the wax paper. And this top layer, you can get rid of that now if you'd like. And then I'm just simply going to take one of the butter knives I used to cut. I'm going to cut a straight line at the edge to kind of get rid of kind of jagged edge. And now I'm just going to do like 1/2-inch strips down the way for the entire dough. Let's see if there's any other questions. Okay. So Jean's saying, when you say flatten the dough thinly, about how thick? About 1/4 inch? You know, Jane, I like to think of myself as great at math. However, I have to tell you on that. It's like smaller than 1/4 inch. Like it's pretty thin. This is like a I don't even know what measurement to tell you. I apologize. However, let me just pull up this jagged edge one so I can show you all around. So it's like really thin on that side, and then like 1/2 inch width there. Hope that helps. But thank you for participating. Keep the questions coming, pretty please. Let's see. Joe is saying, I use wax paper also. After rolling it out, I refrigerate the crust for 15 to 20 minutes prior to putting it in the pie plate. That helps with peeling off the wax paper easily with less sticking. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that because I did not know that. So that's absolutely what I will do with this lattice, because we are going to put this to the side while we make the fruit mixture, AKA the fruit filling. So I absolutely will keep this in the fridge while we make that part. So I sincerely appreciate that tip. Okay, so I'm just gonna peel off the dough from the counter. Gonna put the jagged edge to the side. And thanks to Joe, I'm moving over to my fridge. Be right back. Let's see. Oh, good. I'm putting it right on top of the egg carton, so we've got space. Nice. So if your hands are like doughy and buttery like mine, I'd say this is a great chance to rinse our hands. So give me a moment for this, if you will. And then we will jump straight into the fruit. So I have already prepped my fruit. If you have not, this is a great time to pit your cherries. And actually, just as a curiosity, did anybody else have an issue finding cherries? I don't know if we're just early in the season and or if it's a Colorado thing, but the cherries that I went to go purchase, it was like half of them were already kind of rotted and the other half looked delicious. So I just grabbed half to look delicious, of course, but I didn't have enough. So as I mentioned at the top of the hour, I'm gonna mix fruit just so that we have enough. So I do want 5 cups of fruit for this recipe. So I do have the cherries that I pitted here, and I'll show you in a moment how I did that. And then I halved and quartered some strawberries, which are my fave. And then I'm also going to include some blueberries in this recipe. So we've got the blueberries. So let's see. Judith's saying it's early for Idaho for the cherries. Okay. And Sandra's saying that the strawberries are still looking big, red, and juicy. Oh my gosh, they are amazing. Again, still a miracle to me that they're still in the bowl because I'm eating them a lot today. Let's see. Oh, Leon says that Whole Foods has a nice selection. Okay. And then, oh, in the Massachusetts area. Awesome. Okay. No, that's good to know. Great. So I would say, of course, play. I can't say that enough with any of the fruits and berries that you choose. But if you did and you were craving like cherries in specific, then of course, maybe you just need to wait another week or two before they're like at their peak juiciness and yumminess. Okay, all of that to say, let's cook them up now. So let me go to that piece. So in your recipe handout, which is in the chat, you'll see the filling is step 2. So we're going to preheat our ovens to 375. And let's see, we're going to do lower oven, 375. Next, we're going to heat our fruit in a medium saucepan. You can see I just have this, I like that the rim is high because in a moment we'll be moving that fruit around. So I just like having the high rim so everything stays in the pot. But if you are more patient than I am and you have a flatter one, no worries. Just find a pot that will heat up the fruit. Let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it on in. I'm going to start with these, again, luscious strawberries. And then the pitted cherries. I promised you all that I would show you how to pit a cherry. And I need my cutting board. So you take a cutting board, you take your beautiful cherry, take the stem off, and then similar to when you're cutting garlic and you use the flat of the knife, the palm of your hand, and you're just gonna press down. So press down, and it makes it really easy. Ooh, some yummy juices are coming out. And then it's easy just to peel the pit there. And I've seen quite a few YouTube videos, actually. There's like quite a few different ways to pit a cherry, but I find that that's the most efficient and easiest way for me. So go ahead, put your fruit in the pot. I've got my strawberries, my cherries, ooh, and the blueberries. So I do want a minimum of 5 cups of fruit for this particular recipe. See if we have any questions there. Oh, so Judith is like a professional cherry. She has her cherry pitter. Nicely done, Judith. Maybe I'll ask for that for Christmas this year. Or let's see if I have any other holidays coming up. Oh, my birthday's in November. Maybe I'll ask for a cherry pitter in November. We'll see. So I love that idea. And I love cherries. So I'm putting my fruit on low. So we're going to give that, it usually takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes. And you'll start to see some of the juices flowing down from the heat. And then we'll know that that's time to add the sugar, add the vanilla extract, and add the dash of lemon. Let's see. Oh, so Rach is a November birthday buddy as well. Rach, are you early November or later? Meaning, are you a Scorpio or a Sag? Because there's a big difference. I'm married to a Scorpio, but I'm a Sag. We are very different, but yet obviously it really, really works. I like him. he can stay. So Midge, a Scorpio as well. I love it. Nice. All right, so I hear a little bit of sizzling. Let me move it around to see if I see any juices yet. Yeah, let's give that one more moment because I want these peak yumminess. While I do wait for that, I want to let you know that you'll see if you're looking at or following along on the recipe with us, I put arrowroot as our thickener. And this is one of the alternatives that I love to cornstarch. A lot of people have used or do use cornstarch as a thickener for sauces and or for baking. And thickener, yes, but it's also, or let me rephrase, so I know I always have to be careful with large groups. I will say studies have shown that corn can be a huge inflammatory ingredient. I know for me, if I ingest corn, my joints start to swell, like seemingly out of nowhere. And so for me, I try to avoid corn at all costs. With that said, a beautiful alternative is using the arrowroot. It has a very similar function, and yet it has no inflammatory ingredients in it. So This just happens to be Bob's Red Mill, but I think there's lots of different brands that you can find in the grocery store. Okay, can you hear the sizzles? And I see the juice. Let me see. I'll try to hold it up. I don't know if you'll be able to tell the juices at this point, but you can see the fruit is juicy. So now we're going to turn the heat up more towards boiling. So medium high, I would say. I'm going to add my cup of sugar. And when I say sugar for this one, I'm choosing to use a mix of coconut sugar and monk fruit granules. Both are very low on the glycemic index. If you're choosing to use the traditional sugar, okay, we're having fun this summer. And again, a little bit of sweetness once in a while. Okay, everything in moderation. If you're finding yourself eating pie every day, we might want to talk about that. But I promise I'm not coming to your house to judge you. No judgment here. We are all in this together. So I did half coconut sugar, half monk fruit granules. And now I'm doing about a teaspoon of lemon juice to kind of bring out more of the juices. We'll do a teaspoon of the vanilla extract for a little bit of flavor. And let's see if I've missed anything. Oh, and then a dash of sea salt. Peg's asking, the arrowroot and the cornstarch, does it equal a 1-to-1 substitution? Yes, it does. So that's the great news. Thank you for asking. So yes, next time you're going to make a gravy, perhaps, I would strongly recommend throwing out the cornstarch and grabbing the arrowroot. It doesn't have any flavor. Like, you'll not notice any difference with flavor or even texture, but hopefully your joints and your body will absolutely thank you for protecting your body. Okay, so we're going to let that kind of sizzle for 2 to 3 minutes. Let's see if we have any other questions. Oh, sounds like Sandra had the same question. Sorry, Sandra, I missed that earlier, but yes. And then Donna's asking, do you have to saute the fruit? So you don't have to. I just like the texture better, and I feel like it gels better. And especially when we add the arrowroot flour, you're going to see it's going to create a beautiful gelatinous kind of texture, which just kind of like nice ooey gooey for a pie. But no, honestly, if you wanted to put the natural fruit into the pie shell, it could taste relatively fresh. I just think it tastes better with all this goodness in it. But awesome question. Let's see. Oh, do this saying, ask for the German one that lets you do more than one at a time. Oh, is that with the cherry pitters? Because that would be great to get more cherries in my mouth faster. Yes, please, to a cherry pitter that does multiple cherries. That sounds amazing. Thank you for that hip tip. If you have a link to that, like on Amazon, or if you have a brand that you like, please share it with us. I'd love to learn more. Let's see. So Marcia is asking, will you be sending out the nutritional info when the recipe is emailed out? I will not. However, I will say, and I know there's a little bit of controversy out there with AI, but I have noticed AI does an amazing job. So if you wanted to copy and paste my recipe into something like ChatGPT, I have a feeling you're going to get the numbers that you want. Again, I don't endorse it. I just know I love it, and I have used it in the past. But I am a nutritionist, and it's more the dietitians that will give you nutritional info, macros, micros. I am more on the educational side. So I'm sorry I don't have that info for you at this point. But thank you for asking, sincerely. Keep them coming. Okay, so now we are going to sprinkle. Let's see, what did I say? I said 3 tablespoons. For this one, I'm actually going to do 2 this time because it was a little bit too gelatinous for me with my first go around. But you can't go wrong. Like, it was still delicious, and my teenagers ate it and they loved it. So 2 to 3 tablespoons, you'll be great. And so now you just want to mix it all together to make sure there's no more white pieces and no more white parts. We want that arrowroot completely mixed into this filling. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. Just like almost like that burning sugar smell a little bit, but without the actual burn. It smells really good in this kitchen. I hope your kitchen is smelling good as well. And for my friends who are just watching the demo, I hope you get to have this experience because this is delightful. All right, so I'm gonna let that bubble up maybe for 30 more seconds and I'll check the chat. Let's see. Also, Judith is saying that she brought her cherry pitter from Betty Crocker years ago. Oh, good for you. That's awesome. Let's see. And then Jean is sharing, which before I even read it, thank you, Jean. This is like community in action right here. Jean says, I use netdiary.com to track my food. It's a weight loss plan. It's a free version. And you can put recipes in to figure out the nutrition and the calories. Awesome sauce. Thank you. And I sincerely appreciate that. We saved the chat, so I'll go back and look at that when you have a chance to write things down. So thank you for sharing that, sincerely. Okay. So now I'm going to turn the fruit off. And now we do want to give it a moment to cool. Because this is a demo, I'm not going to give it too many moments because we got to keep the show rolling. But in your household, if you have the time, I would suggest waiting probably 10 minutes-ish just to let it sincerely cool down so it's not like cooking the crust too fast. With that said, let me see. Yeah, I just moved it to the second burner here to let it cool. With that said, I want to teach you and show you the coconut whip. You, my friend, will be baking this for 40 to 50 minutes, depending on your altitude. So while it bakes, and actually I would say maybe wait till maybe even 5 minutes, or you know what, better yet, because after it bakes, we want the actual pie to cool down so nobody's mouth burns. So after you pull the pie out, then I want you to make this a delicious coconut whip to go on top. So to do that, we're going to take either a hand mixer or your stand-up mixer. We are going to take your full-fat coconut whip. And the reason why I say full fat is because it's healthy fat. This is one, and I have the brand kind of turned backwards because there's a lot of great brands. And again, I don't endorse any brands on this show. I just like to share what I'm using. So I'm using this full fat coconut because it's absolutely brain supportive. And you just indulge me for a moment. The nutritionist has to come out to share. I like to tell people that when we're eating any meal, whether it's the dessert, dinner, lunch, breakfast, if you can have what I call my PFF method, so you have a protein, a fiber, and a healthy fat, that's going to satiate our tummies, which then, of course, tells our brain, I got this. And it helps our hormones to regulate, it helps to balance our blood sugar. And so with that, this is going to be our healthy fat. For the dessert, the fruit is going to be our fiber. So let's see, and the protein, I guess that would be the butter in this case. And so my friends who are using the avocado oil or coconut oil might get protein probably on the side. So thank you for indulging me. Now back to baking. So let's come on over to our mixer. And you want to pour the coconut milk away from your body because it is quite liquefied. And we don't want the splashes everywhere. I've actually got my husband behind the screen and he does not like splashes anywhere. So I try to do my best to be as clean as possible. It doesn't always happen though, so as you can see, we're making a mess today. So full fat coconut milk. I chose liquid stevia as the sweetener because there's nothing that's going to affect our blood sugar with stevia. It is natural, literally from nature. It comes from a green grass called stevia. And for my friends who don't love stevia, no worries. But let me count 8 drops and then I'll tell you more. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You could also use coconut sugar. You could also use monk fruit sugar. And then, of course, my friends who want to hold on to their traditional sugar, no judgment here. I will just say, if we can make choices to have the sweetness without raising our blood sugar, that's what I'm going to lean on all day, every day. All right, so we did the stevia. Now we want ½ teaspoon vanilla extract. And this is again for flavor.
Hey, Michelle,
Yes.
this is Allison, the voice from beyond.
Yes.
I just noticed that there's a couple questions in the Q&A that you might not have seen. One is, can you use stevia granules?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's from Lisa. And then somebody was asking if you could just tell us what arrowroot is.
Yes. Thanks for asking. So arrowroot is actually a root, just like a potato or a sweet potato. So it's a root that's grown in the ground. And so this would be similar if you like, just to keep it simple, let's think of it that way. If we took a potato, we dried it, and then we put it in the food processor, we get potato flour, essentially. So that's essentially the arrowroot flour, same thing. I hope that helps. Any other questions before this blender goes on? Because it's gonna be loud.
That's all I have. Blend away.
Sweet, thank you. Here we go. And you know, when we have a blender or a mixer, we gotta have some shoulder shakes. So whether you're cooking or not, let's see a little body movement. Here we go. All right. Hope you got a little boogie in your own kitchen. I always say there's never too much dance. In fact, dance all day if you want. I try to do my best. So I just want to show you the texture. Looks like Mary Beth, our certified French chef, is on the call with us. So she could probably tell you the science behind how this makes it fluffy when you do that. But I'm going to do a quick little taste. That's good. That's really good. Okay, so now it is time. Don't worry to put the pie together and get it ready for the oven. So let's go ahead and put the fruit in. Let me make sure that's cool enough. Oh, good. Oh yeah, that is juicy. And hopefully yours got gelatinous as well. Makes it delicious. And as you can see, we've got our fruit delight in there. And now, thanks to our friend's suggestion, let me grab the lettuce out of the fridge. Okay, so now I tend to like to do 4 strips this way, and then I'll flip it. And then I like to do 4 strips this way. Again, I can't say it enough. Tonight is baker's choice. You do what works for you. And oh my gosh, I think it was Joe that mentioned this trick. Joe, thank you. This is like the answer to my prayers, because my dough was breaking off a lot when we did the test run. Now we know we're going to chill the dough before we put on our lattice. So thank you, thank you, thank you. More community in action. That seriously lights up my heart. So thank you. Because this is, yes, a much better experience than what was happening the other day, I would just say. This is fantastic. And if you find yourself putting on the lattice and if pieces break off, again, this dough is very forgiving. So just use your thumbs to pinch it back together and you will be just fine. And nobody will know the difference. But also take your time. There's no rush here. We're baking. We are having fun. We are in the kitchen, whether you're dancing with me or not. We're having fun. See if we have any questions. Thank you all for your patience as well. Do we have any other questions about pie making, about future AARP events, about future nutrition events with AARP? Oh, this is coming together quite lovely. Woo, so pretty. I cannot wait to bite into this one. It does, as I mentioned, it does take up to 40 minutes, or I said 40 to 60 originally, I believe, depending on your climate. I would say actually 40 to 50 minutes. I'm going to put mine in for 40 minutes. That seemed to do the trick earlier, including, make sure I don't forget to share with you, for the first 25 minutes of baking, we do want to put a foil cover on top just so it doesn't burn the edges of the lattice. And then the last 15 minutes, we'll take the foil off so that we can get a nice, crispy, brown topping. Ooh, I'm loving this. Pinching the edges. This just makes me so happy. I love learning new things. And I'm telling you, the last time I did this, it was falling off. I'm like, this is going to be an interesting show. And thanks to our community, things are moving in the right direction. One more piece, and then we will pop it in the oven. Actually, before we pop it in the oven, we're going to go to our friend's question about the egg. Let's make a quick egg wash. And this is baker's choice. You can do, you can separate the yolk from the egg white if you want a pristine pie and you just want to perhaps use the whites, because it will kind of show up, the yellows of the egg will show up with the fruit if you're not absolutely precise with putting the egg white, or excuse me, the egg wash on the lattice. So totally up to you. I tend to like using the entire egg. Let me move this to the side for now. So an egg wash for my non-bakers, it just is simply an egg product that you're putting on dough to make it a little bit flakier, crispier, and more appealing to look at. It's definitely not a must, especially for my friends who may be allergic to eggs. you do not need this part at all. It's just a nice extra touch if you can. All right, so let me move this more center so you can see what we're doing. Oh, wait, let's hold it up first. Oh, do you hear the angels singing? We're getting so close. Okay, so now with the egg wash, I'm just gonna come with my tool and I'm just gonna gently go down each piece. And again, this is just to make it nice and flaky and golden. See if we have any questions. Oh, yay. Is there monk fruit without the I never know how to say that. Or maybe I do and I just get tongue twisted. Honestly, I have not done a lot of research on that, my friend. So I do not know, Peg. I would say a good place to go is what I like to call Dr. Google. So maybe you can Google to find some monk fruit without let me just read it. Erythritol. Said it. So yeah, and actually that's a good question for me to know because yeah, I don't necessarily love the chemicals either. So I appreciate you asking. And if you find an answer, please let us know so that we can increase the health of our communities. All right, and now I'm just going to do a nice little brush on the perimeter as well. And there we go. So I'm gonna loosely put over this foil piece so that it doesn't stick to the dough, especially my friends who are using the gluten-free flour can get a little sticky. So I kind of just like to tent it that it's not getting burnt. And then I'm going to put it on top of a baking sheet because the yummy, delicious, beautiful juices from the fruit and sometimes trickle over. So we want to protect our ovens as well. Okay. Any questions before I do that? No. Oh, good. It looks like we are right on time. So if you give me just one more moment, we're going to dine together. So I'll put this in my lower level. And then it looks like we have magic fairies who provided a finished pie for us. Look at that. The magic of cooking demos. Dun, 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 dun. And here we go. Let me close this oven. I'm going to cut into this. Let's see, let's get a fresh knife for this one. And I happen to be hungry right now too, so this is perfect timing. And I'm not going to be shy with the pie size either. Mama's going to have a nice bite here. And I did bake this one in my tart pan, so let me move the baking sheet out of the way. Let's see if I push it up. Let's see if it stays intact. Oh, yes. That's perfectly sticky because, again, that arrowroot creating a nice gelatinous base for the fruit. Let me grab my plate, my pie cutters. Ooh, let's get in there. So I don't want all of it. I don't want anything sticking into the pan. Let's try this. So you can see how kind of thick that got with the fruit. And I did the exact same recipe we did this evening for this one. Now I want my dollop of coconut whip, my brain supportive creamy yumminess. If you want bonus points, you could do a dash of cinnamon on top, because that's great for balancing our blood sugar. And I'll show you here. And now I'm going to take a bite. So as I'm taking a bite, if you have any questions as we close down, please put it in the chat. Mm. We did it. That is so good. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. We will be back for more cooking on August 3rd, first Thursday. We'll be making a vegetable fried rice with another yummy dessert. I'd love to have you back for that. And then before that, in July, the first Thursday in July, we'll be back talking nutrition, specifically around menopause and how to help my friends get through that period with a lot more ease. Let me see if there's any more questions before we sign out. Oh, yay. I'm glad I could entertain you tonight, Sandra. I do my best. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, you guys are welcome. This has been sincerely wonderful to be here with you. Let's see. Wonderful. All right. Well, come back. And of course, play. I just want you to continue to play. Have fun with this. Baking and cooking is meant to be fun and enjoyed. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And I will send everything out in an email later on tonight once the link is ready and all that good stuff. And I'll put the link for July in there also. So we will see you next month. And thank you very much. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.